Controversy abounds and the sun is about to blind me, so we are going to work as fast as we can, but there is a ton to get through. As usual, Artist Journal, November 6, 2022, Berlin. My name is Adrian Pocobelli. Artist Reporter, full of controversy this episode. There's a lot to go through, so I am going to try and speed through. I had to start with this Terry Visual JNK video, Kurt Hustle Collective. We cannot watch the whole thing. It is 5 minutes long, but it is brilliant. So let me just give you a taste. I did the screenshot of the news guy, but let's just go to the start here. I'll play about 45 seconds or something. Think about being in a gallery and watching. So pretty, just, it's awesome. I don't want to stop it. I mean, it's brilliant. It's this brilliant satire. So anyways, you have to check this out. I don't want to stop it, but we must. Okay. The name is KHC, Kurt Hustle Collective, on object.com. That is where you can watch the rest of this brilliant piece. And I just compare it to the video art. I see it, local contemporary art institutions here, and which will remain unnamed. And I just go, this is so much better. I don't want to stop it. Whereas those, you're just kind of waiting for them to end. Nothing, again, these are just my personal opinions, so which are getting me into trouble, as we're going to see here. Okay, continuing on. So KHC, Terry Visual, and JNK are the men. I believe they're men. I'm pretty sure they're men behind the piece. Okay, continuing on. Quick thank yous. Sold a few 8-Bit Nature series to Baker Island. Thank you, Lewis, I believe, who actually left a comment today. Baker Island, thank you, Lewis. Awesome. And Maestro Museum, who I often see around too. So thanks, guys. And another desert sold to an anonymous collector. So thanks, everybody. Very encouraging, very helpful. I love that series. And yeah, they're moving. So anyways, moving on. Just a quick thank you again to the artists. I just want to show everybody, look at all the artists that are pointing this out, that they're on this show. We have Rare, who we started the show off with. Thank you again for talking about my work. Please check out the other videos. And of course, this one, really cool work with the robot Boston Dynamic dogs there. Popple, I'm going to try screen printing pixel art someday per Pocobelli's suggestion. And I think that's a great idea. And we're going to get into the whole physical digital debate today here. And so anyways, yeah. And again, I find the move from digital to physical works brilliantly, particularly with pixel art that is not moving. That is just made to order for screen printing, especially if it's two colors. And one other thing on Popple's work here, and a lot of you saw it yesterday, one other thing on that is Popple, you can change the color of the black. You can change both colors, the paper, but not only the paper color, but the color of the ink that you're using. So you could put you could do vaporwave, you could do that, neon pink on purple, which could look fabulous. Okay, so anyway, just more ideas. As I say, everybody has ideas. Few people execute, so good luck on the execution there, Popple. I'm sure that'll turn out brilliant. Haiti, hey, welcome back, Pocobelli. Super much love. So thank you, Haiti. Always great to hear from you. One of my favorite artists in the space, so I had to give a shout out. So Runetoon has this very, not too long, but has a thread on this whole physical versus digital thing. So let's get into it, and because we have a lot to go through here. And I am trying, Twitter is going to put up to 42-minute videos from the sounds of it. I got rid of that tweet because the show was getting too long, but I was going to mention that. So I'm mentioning it now, and it's kind of exciting if you're making videos to think about what might happen there, because they'll probably put incentives for Twitter people over YouTube people. I'll do both, of course, because YouTube's been very generous. Continuing on, they share the videos. Okay, Pocobelli's back. Prepare for a long-winded thread from Runetoon. It's not too long. Regarding Damien Hirst NFT versus in real life physical work, I hear you. So we've been debating this, of course, on the program, but I'm opposed to this continued emphasis on an argument against physical artwork within a digital space. And I'd say this is slightly overstated, but, again, I am skeptical. Fair enough. I am skeptical of this whole idea of basically taking a picture of a physical work and then selling it as an NFT. But as I've said many, many times, if people want to do that, buy and sell it, I'm all for it. It's art, and people are selling and making money. Everybody's happy. What's not to like? So that is my view, as I've said many times here. Let's continue with the argument here, though. Any argument that aims to invalidate an art, which I don't think I'm doing, it has nothing to do, actually, with the art. It has to do with how it's being sold. And like the collectability and what is the art. I'm not saying it's not art. I'm saying the work, the art piece is the physical work for me. I'm not saying anybody else has to think like I do. Okay? This is an artist's journal. These are my personal thoughts shared publicly. And I was thinking in the shower today, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, you wrote your journal, and unless you're Andy Warhol who gets that published, you just assume it's going to be looked at after you die. Here it's like in real time, a real-time artist journal. So continuing on, be it AI, art, photography, performance, painting, etc., is more harmful than productive. Again, I'm not trying to invalidate art. And I think you wound me, Runetoon, here a little bit. Again, the charity of interpretation, and we can get into, I've been kind of dancing around Plato this entire series. We haven't really talked Plato, barely. And I'm trying to probably because I'm trying to keep these episodes short. But let me just go very quickly into a crucial dialogue called the Crito, because you guys like the history. I hear that over and over. I think Runetoon likes the history. And this is very important because we're kind of doing dialectic here, another Platonic term, and we're having a conversation of ideas, right? And so very quickly, so there's a trilogy of Platonic dialogues where Socrates' trial, the apology, which is actually a word that means defense. So he's at trial, he's giving his defense, that's the apology, where he is condemned to death. At the trial, Socrates, the great Greek philosopher, sometimes called the founder of Western civilization. I almost did a master's in Neoplatonism, so I'm kind of neck deep in this stuff to a certain degree, as much as someone who doesn't speak Greek, ancient Greek, can be. And after that, there's two other dialogues, the Crito and the Phaedo. The Crito, and this is where I'm getting to, is about the charity of interpretation. And this is a crucial idea, especially as we see all the political turmoil that's out there. And so Socrates is in prison, and his friends go to bust him out and say, okay, Socrates, we can bribe the guard. We know we can do this. The guard liked Socrates, so it probably wasn't a tough sell. We can get you out of here. What do you think? And Socrates goes, well, okay, so I've lived under these laws. I mean, we see it from our point of view. We think this is unjust. But we have to see it from the other side's point of view. In other words, we have to employ what is sometimes called the charity of interpretation. Look at the city's point of view, the city who condemned Socrates to death. Socrates, you've grown up here. He makes the argument for the city. Socrates, you've grown up here in this free city, city-state called Athens, where you could talk your entire time under our laws. And now, this is what he would say, that the city would say, and now that these laws are going against what you want, you're going to run away and say these laws are irrelevant, right? That these laws no longer matter. And what would they say about me were I to take off now once these laws became inconvenient for me? So what is Socrates doing there? He is employing the charity of interpretation. And what does that mean? He is seeing the other side's point of view from its own perspective. And this is crucial to understanding and to getting forward in a conversation and being true. Always try and see the other side's point of view from its own perspective. So Socrates' answer is, thank you very much, I'll stay. I'd rather drink the hemlock, thank you. Right? Okay, so crucial dialogue, 20 pages. You can read it today. I recommend everybody read the Crito. Okay, so as we go through this, so I'm not trying to invalidate an art. Okay, we're discussing the medium and just the sales mechanics, the collectability. This has nothing to do, to a certain degree, with the art itself. Okay, and as I've always said, whoever wants to buy and sell this stuff, make my day. But I'm free to have my opinion on these things. And especially if it's backed up by reasoning, right? So I don't think I'm being harmful, is my point here. And I think maybe Runetoon should be slightly more charitable. But I love the comments, by the way. I think these are these are very helpful talking points and move us forward in our discussion. Otherwise, I'm not talking about the Crito, which I think is crucial, frankly. Continuing on, it is a fascinating and nuanced topic. What is the real versus a simulation? And it deserves attention. Yeah, and so is the photo of a physical work a simulation? I guess Runetoon is calling it that. Let's continue. But the artists whose practice is working with physical mediums, it betrays them. It betrays them to diminish their work by saying it is less authentic and therefore less valuable in our community, simply because it exists both digitally and physically. Yeah, so again, this has nothing to do with the art. And as I think you point out later in the argument, I still show physical works because I find them interesting, because the art is good, right? The collectability, say with WOC, I'm not running out to buy the Diego Maradona piece as an NFT, but I kind of considered it for the physical. And that's just my taste as a collector. To me, the real art is the physical piece, not the photo of the piece. And I think Damien Hirst, I wouldn't have thought about buying or of keeping the digital NFT. Like, I would have jumped on the physical, and the market is backing me up. And I'm not saying it'll stay that way, but I'm just saying so far the physical NFTs of Damien Hirst's work, the currency, are worth far more. 3x, I think it was Grant Riven U, was pointing out. So I think we just have to, we can't bury our heads in the sands either on this. So I think we just have to keep bringing and always be willing to change our mind. But I don't know what reasons are going to be given here for me to change my mind. But let's see if Runetoon can do it. For physical medium-based artists, the best way for them to share their work is through digital outlets like social media and NFT marketplaces. Yes, we've been commenting on this, where, as we saw with Gabriel Walter and WOC, I think they're brilliantly selling their work their physical work via digital marketplaces. And I could see this catching on, and I'm excited about that. I started thinking, well, maybe I could do that. So I'm not, before you know it, I'm the guy who's doing this sort of thing. I'm just not going to be selling the NFT. I'll be selling the digital work as the NFT if it comes out of a digital work. But I consider a physical work that's derived, say like Popple, for example. If he makes his pixelated work on digitally, which he did, I think we can assume very clearly, the Pixel Plankton series, Pixelankton, And then he makes a screen print of that. I find those two separate works of art. They are different iterations of almost an identical concept, but they are different works of art in my universe. The digital work is, if I want the digital work, I buy the NFT. If I want the physical version, well, that's the physical version, and maybe that's worth more, maybe that's worth less. In a sense, it doesn't matter. But to me, it's a different iteration of that work. I work like that, okay? Exactly like that. So, so there's no disagreement here. As we all know, for emerging and unknown artists, the real-world trad art spaces are not the easiest or most effective way to share your work. Absolutely. What I love about new art platforms like Object is that it has blown open a whole new landscape for totally unrecognized talent. You could argue that's the meat and potatoes of this show, is unrecognized talent or somewhat, unrecognized talent, depending on the artist. I want this space to be as open as possible for all artists working in all mediums and from every part of the world. I want to maintain this momentum, the Cambrian explosion, as you call it. I know you, Pocobelli, display physical artwork on your show and said you will continue to do so, which is great, but I think people come to your show for your celebration of art and for your formative questions and analysis. Consider this a friendly and thoughtful response. So again, this is it's like Ralph Steadman. And I'm just sharing my opinion. Again, that's the beauty of this show. This is a public sharing of my artist journal, it's a private diary shared publicly, okay, in real time. And I think I should be free to have my opinions. And I'm not saying anybody has to think the way I think, right? So, and I've made that very clear every time I discuss this. And I realize that you, Pocobelli, are not actively against physical art, far from it, or anything like that. This is just what comes to mind when I see you put one physical against the other digital. I would love to hear your response. So I think you've heard my response. They are different iterations, and I think it's a lot harder to go from physical to digital, but I'm not even against that. In a sense, like if you take a picture of a physical work and then you start doing digital edits, to me, that starts to make it more collectible and more of kind of a authentic original artwork versus rather than just a simple photo of an artwork. Okay, so again, let the debate rage as far as I'm concerned. So feel free to reply and everything, and we'll discuss it further, because I think this is very helpful. And thank you, Runetoon, for sharing this, because we're all adults here and we can all handle this. I mean, this is what this show is all about, ideally. This is a salon. We can't all just assume we're all going to think the same thing, particularly of the host of the program. Like that, I live for this, okay? So thank you for the comments, and I hope you continue to comment, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from on this whole situation. Continuing on, just a final note. I mean, we got another comment from Louis here, Louis Lantigua. The physical work versus NFT dialogue is one that maybe needs to mature a little as far as the transaction mechanics is concerned. Tezos allows for experimentation. I am personally very excited about fractionalization of art, which we've never discussed here, and other economic models being designed. Technically speaking, Tezos is headed in that direction as it can support smart contracts. In my opinion, the NFT scene in Tezos democratizes access for collectors, and it engages the creator perpetually. Minting art is a no-brainer. So this idea, we haven't discussed this idea of the fractionalization of art. In other words, if I put out an artwork and instead of selling it as one token, we put out 5,000 tokens. And maybe this might make, I've had actually a contemporary art world gallerist, a friend of mine, talk to me about putting together an NFT marketplace about a year ago at the height of the bull run, last November, one of the heights of the bull run. And a lot of money involved. I didn't do anything. I just consulted for free, okay? And I'm no longer a part of that project, but it seems to be moving forward. But all to say, he was talking about fractionalizing works, and for me, that's always been a little bit complicated, because, what's the mechanics of that? I guess you could have so I guess you could have a whole bunch of tokens that represent one token. Like there's a project, I want to call it B29, but I don't think it's called that, that has Beeples in its collection, right? They're the ones that bought the $69 million Beeple. And you can buy that token that has their collection, and that's basically the idea. So, I mean, there are models for this. It gets kind of complicated, though. And I'm kind of, I like to keep things simple. So anyway, so interesting idea. Let's just open up that conversation with that comment. And finally, and I'm happy to return to it. So maybe we'll just start thinking about it, this fractionalization idea and where it might lead. So referring to an older video, art is a poetic form of design. I'll try and keep this as short as I can. Already this show, we haven't even hit the art yet, except for the wonderful KHC. So what is a good decision in art? So we're talking, as I like to say, in design as in art, and art is a poetic form of design in my universe. There are good decisions and there are bad decisions, and in design there are many good decisions. So what is a good decision in art? So let's first of all remove the poetry out of it, because poetry is super subjective. But in design, for example, there are very clear examples we can give of good and bad decisions in design. Say for a website, if you make the logo, that's usually in the top corner, very small. If you make that 90% of the screen, that is a bad decision. If you make it, say, a reasonable, size, in a sense, it's kind of, in terms of design, rationally speaking, you start to get reason involved with design. That is the difference, in a lot of ways, between art and design, is the poetic force, the poetic element is irrational. Largely, not entirely. There is an irrational component in it. So what's a good decision in art? Let's reduce that to design first, just to provide, so extreme examples, the logo. I was also thinking the keyboard on a phone, BlackBerry, for example, you could argue putting the keyboard at the bottom isn't necessarily a bad decision. Apple hides it. You could argue they're both good decisions. In a sense, people tend to prefer the keyboard that's hidden within the screen rather than the external keyboard that BlackBerry did, right? But as far as, you're not going to put the keyboard, though, on the side of the phone, for example. Then we can start to say, well, maybe that's a bad decision, right? And so it comes down to purpose. What is your purpose of your work? What are you trying to do? Because if you're trying to make the most efficient phone possible in terms of phone, then you would probably eliminate the keyboard, as Apple did, and which has become the standard, right? So we could call that a good decision, right? Putting the keyboard on the side as a big physical thing that makes the thing bigger is probably a bad decision. And I would argue we can start applying that stuff also to the poetic element. Some poetry is very powerful. Look at Shakespeare. I mean, I think, my favorite line probably by Shakespeare is in King Lear. And it's so simple. He says nothing 5 times. Nothing, 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 nothing. Okay? That is probably my favorite, most memorable Shakespeare line. And we've all seen bad poetry in contrast to that. So there is good decisions. And so I'd consider nothing, 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 nothing a good decision, to answer your question. Thank you for the comment, Deacon Agoy. We could take a whole show probably with that very simple but provocative question. A couple of news updates here that we have to pay attention to. Instagram, you will soon be able to create, buy, and sell digital collectibles directly on Instagram, starting with Polygon. Okay? So, now nobody's really, most people aren't using Polygon. There are people out there. But this is what I was thinking and why I bring it up with us. Plus, new integrations with OpenSea, Solana, and Phantom Wallet, which is the Solana wallet. So you may want to consider, the thought that crossed my mind is, I should probably have a Solana, account so I can sell work on Instagram. And Solana's kind of it doesn't, for whatever reason, Polygon just doesn't really have a very collectible feel to me. And I'm not trying to diminish any art that's on Polygon, okay? But I'm just saying, like, I mean, do you buy Polygon NFTs? I mean, they are getting more popular. I saw some tweets in the last week about these Reddit NFTs that are going to the moon. Okay, so I'm not asking anybody to think like me, but what I'm bringing up here is you may want to start on Solana if you haven't started yet. That's a thought that crossed my mind. Finally, I mean, it's Sunday. Guys, I think I might actually, by the way, quick show note, I'm going to probably, I think I mentioned this, I'm going to make weekends optional, okay? Because this is like a week of content on a Sunday. It took me an hour. And so it's taking too long, and it's taken away from the art production, which is the main show here from Pocobelli land. OpenSea, this is important though. There's been a lot of discussion over the past few months about business models for NFT creators and whether creator fees, royalties are viable. Given our role in the ecosystem, we want to take a thoughtful, principled approach to the topic to lead with solutions. Okay, so what we all know what this means is OpenSea is probably about to make royalties optional. So just a heads up there, and this is all because of Blur, that massive airdrop that I forgot to cash in on. That's because Blur is taking a huge amount, Blur.io is taking a huge amount of volume from OpenSea, from what I understand. I think they actually had more volume, and they make the royalties optional. So again, now my whole take, we've discussed it before, and I think Flexosaurus put it fairly well, is a big-time collector, 0% royalties sound great. As a decent human being, I don't think that's going to work out. And yeah, I mean, the analogy I have, like, first of all, you know, in the music industry, just because there's not a smart contract doesn't mean that people are going to stop paying the royalties or that Spotify is no longer going to pay Britney Spears because there's no smart contract. There's still a deal, right? First of all. So, I mean, maybe it just means that these NFT projects have to put out terms and conditions and like, this is the deal and you are liable, frankly. I don't see why that can't happen. And the analogy I would use, and we're almost back to Plato with that book 1 of the Republic with the putting on the ring of invisibility and how that would change things. If you were in a store, a small shop, and you want a bunch of chips, and the store owner gets a call in the back, and you're alone in the store, and you know you can walk out with the chips with nothing happening. Do you do it anyway? Do you walk out with the chips? No, because as Flexosaurus says, you have values, right? And are you just going to, okay, now that you can do it, you're not going to pay it? So I think Flexosaurus hits the nail on the head here. It's about values. Okay, so, if it's a scam project and you're trying to get rid of it, okay, different story, okay? And someone's willing to buy it, okay, fine. But, I mean, it's a sort of special exception sort of situation where you feel you've been scammed. But if you have legit projects, I mean, everybody's been happy paying the royalties so far. And the fact that this is even kind of a discussion is kind of surprising to me. And finally, another piece. Okay, so as I've been sharing my opinion here, TVs are not ideal for NFTs. It should be projectors. In my view, it's pretty obvious. And so NFT London has been taking a lot of flack for how they were displaying these. And you know what? I'm kind of sympathetic to NFT London because TVs have been seen as okay this whole time. And now, okay, so it really kind of sucks, right? The display here. But it's been seen as okay so far. This is just, okay, they're not on the wall and they're looking at, it's not ideal here, but I'm just saying it's not that different what they're doing than what I saw at Positions Berlin, where I saw vertical or square works put on horizontal TVs. Okay, so I think people are being kind of hard on NFT London because they're not put on the wall. Again, it should be projectors just like it should be. NFTs should be of digital works. Again, I'm happy if everybody disagrees. I don't want to lord my way of thinking on anybody. I'm not interested, okay, in trying to get anybody to think anything. But I do like to share my opinion, which is why I do this show, right? Dana Ulama. I just want to show the Dana Ulama is the artist who I featured at the start with the pupil and the screen flashing. Go back to that episode. It's a little long, but at the very start, you'll see her work. This is where she started over a year ago on Hen, and look at how kind of much simpler this work is. And so the development is huge, and you see it here, where she shows her process, which is quite interesting. And I love the process stuff, as you guys know. So you see just the development from that previous NFT, fairly simple. And now she's showing her process here and her classic vaporwave colors, purple, violet, and pink, neon kind of red, pink. And you got to love how she puts in the fog here. So very cool. So anyway, just a heads up on that. Let me just kill that. Another work in progress, and this time from Purple Drank, and this thing's just leaping off of his iPad, isn't it? So that's looking really sharp over there. Continuing on, Andre, again, working in Procreate, as many people do. It's nice to be able to be so comfortable when you work. I work in Procreate half the time. It's great. You bring it to a cafe, as Purple Drank is doing there, or you can just sit back in your lazy boy chair. So anyways, here's Summer Blues, and yeah, so you see their process, and they're also trying to get on Super Rare. So talking cross-chain now, I'm craving to be part of your exclusive market because it's my purpose to paint a lot of colorful art so I can submit it. I'll make the best of it. So I think Summer Blues has a very good shot at getting on Super Rare. I think this work looks great, and I think that audience will love that work too. So a little bit of cross-chain business there. Evil Machine has gone cross-chain. GM, my first piece on Foundation. Carnissage is out, 0.1 ETH auction. So very cool. He's the person that did the Apple Watch work. I believe it's a he. And Adelia is on Solana, back on the front page with her new work. And this is an auction, Rise and Shine. Don't think too much about the past. Let's rise and shine. It's at 2.7 Solana with an hour to go. So that'll probably go for a few more, because just in the last 15 minutes since I started this is at 2 Solana. So a beautiful new work, a one of one by Adelia. So heads up, that is on Solana on Form Function, which you might want to start trying to get onto, or at least exchange art again, because you can take advantage of Instagram here with our great portrait by Dan Control of Zuck, a simple portrait beyond the person concerned. It is only to be seen at the level of image modulation. So I picked this up. This was a brilliant work. Again, I'm kind of all about this portraiture business, because that is a business, portraiture. And Dan Control is zeroing in on a portraiture process. And so that gets very, very interesting. Wouldn't you want a portrait of yourself like this? I would. Sold out. So these are all gone. I was very early on that one. So congratulations to Dan, and just someone he found. I noticed his tweet here, just collected Plane of Energy by Element Lee. I love this piece, and also Plane of the Fertile by Martin Brook, scooped before me. So very interesting. Kind of reminds me of, I think it's Stinkin' Pixel, who is on Objects. So here's some of Element Lee's other work. So just kind of, I think they call it experimental pixel work. So just kind of interesting. Element Lee. Yeah, this one is quite nice. Here, look at this. So very interesting, right? So I just thought, here's another new pixel artist for us to know about. And let's just see, continuing on, a new work by Echo, aka Sabato. So this is in the ROM Corruption Echo Tides of Time series, Echo the Dolphin series. I thought an interesting glitch ROM work, as we go kind of deeper into the glitch ROM work and process and ideas and where they can go. So interesting. A new work by Cap'n. He sent me this, actually. Thank you, Cap'n. Much appreciated. I would have shown this work anyway, and this is a very interesting work with moving pixels underneath. What is the title? Kind of mysterious. Call, the brighter the light, the darker the shadow. So just an interesting work by Capin. And a couple of works we have here by Santiago. These are getting very interesting. These abstract pixel works, abstract pixel art works, or pixelated abstract works. Very proud of being the human that made this image. We're proud of you, Santiago. I hope everyone is having a nice weekend. I am fine and trying to make these night hours today something productive, but not too long. Okay, awesome. And look at this. Wave in a flying iron structure, also by Santiago. This is on Exchange Art, and this was sold for $3 sol, so $107. A very nice abstract work. So it continues with Santiago. Very interesting. Native Ed posted this, and I just don't remember seeing this. This was just on Twitter, and I just thought this was a very head-turning work. Native Ed, with that animated abstract genre, is a master of. So continuing to enjoy that. And a new work by Françoise Gamma, T-Body 2. And it's kind of, I was like, is this closer to Vesuvian Man, that Leonardo drawing, or is this more like a crucifixion, or is this just simply a body study? Could be any of them. But what's kind of fun about it is you could put this in kind of a religious show, and it might work, right? In a kind of modern day pixelated with, religious themed, which we have even as far as Freakin' Hell, I think, had some works that kind of had, these works that echo Renaissance paintings. Another new artist, OXDGB, High Rise, and he pointed out, or OXDGB pointed out, that there's a little person here. Let me see if we can see it. Right here. Oh, maybe we won't see it. It may be, here it is. Oh, we're not going to be able to see it, but maybe you could see that right here. A little person waving. So anyways, very interesting artist, illustrating for over a decade here for the art. Just very interesting. I love these kind of architectural kind of works. And he also has works, or OXDGB also has works on Foundation. Kind of, again, that surveillance camera. Kind of reminds me of, I think it's Grant Riven Yu is the name, that kind of minimalist. He was calling it neo-precisionism. Let's just see if we can go through some of these. So just kind of an interesting artist, the two surveillance cameras looking at each other. Remember this from GloomTube? Kind of urban structure. So anyways, you can check it out for yourself, oxdgb.com. Dextier with a new kind of fun work, Happy Weekend. 2,500 by 2,500, not small. And buy for 3 Tezos. I thought it was just kind of a fun work. Typical kind of work by Dextier with the one part, that contrast of one part moving, animated, and the rest static, and just makes a really strong contrast, and always just basically interesting. I found this just kind of be a little bit of a moving work by Treza Rodanx, formerly known as Fax Machinovich. And I thought this was just kind of a moving work, and kind of playing with the Pepe thing, but it's almost like some guy and his girlfriend having fun. Kind of a happy work. Buy for 10 Tezos. I think it sold out pretty quickly. That's listed at 10:08 Berlin time, and sold out by 2:32 in the morning. So 4 hours later, at a very cheap 1 Tezos, 10 cents. So I like that piece. Very nice work. Daniel W. is finishing up his series. I mean, has it only been 24 hours since we last spoke? Daniel W. Well, darn, I just noticed we're heading into the final 5 pieces of the Weird and Terrifying collection. Ending a collection is always kind of bittersweet, but I'd like to thank everyone who's been with me on this weird and terrifying journey until now. And this is actually what I want to point out. This started out as a way of trying to get out of a weird post-burnout funk I was in, and ended up turning into a really cool experience. I'll be minting 2 this weekend and the final 3 throughout this week. Hope you all stayed tuned for the last leg of this journey. And so here's one of them, Dokabe, which is a Korean goblin. So pretty cool. What's kind of interesting is it kind of, if I had to guess, I would have thought this was maybe, Mesoamerican sort of thing, or Mexican, or, South American, Central America, that sort of vibe. So interesting. This is Korean, though. It's just like agriculture, they say, developed independently in 5 different parts of the world. That's what they say. I think that's the latest research. And of course, Martin Jojo, thank you for all your support as ever, and a pretty cool V for Vendetta, Kinky Vendetta Bear. So sticking with the edgy S&M theme a little bit here. Pretty cool work and very affordable at 0.51 Tezos. And we already have some takers here, so Polly Jojo there. So nice work. Another new work from Kinky Bears for the Metaverse, helping us stay on the edge of things here as usual. And this one I just find delightful. So a new work from our collector artist, Unknown Collector. I couldn't wait to get to this piece today. Tomorrow I will list the second drop of my collection for the culture. Until then, you can get community builders for 7 Tezos on a secondary link. So, and I think I brought this up on, so now it's 7 Tezos, sold like 252 editions at 1 Tezo 69. So kind of made like 400 and some Tezos here with this work. And pretty nice AI work. So I'm kind of cheering on Unknown Collector to break all these taboos. Let's just see what he wrote here. There are some builders that abuse the power that a large community gives them. Their communities follow them blindly, and nothing can stop them from ostracizing or suppressing others because they are protected by their followers who have been shaped into an army. Now they have their little army and nothing can stop them. That's what community is all about, to support each other no matter what happens, or is it? So I detect a touch of sarcasm in there, but you bring your own interpretation. Purple Drank is working on AI, Guernica, a play on Guernica, I suppose. Although it doesn't look exactly like Guernica, but I guess we see the horse, or maybe that's a bull. So interesting work by Purple Drank in the AI front. Tukes, whose work we looked at before, also made AI with DALL-E and slight post-production on Photoshop. So I thought this was another kind of head-turning work. Kind of looks like a collage, but made with AI. Very interesting. And if you're trying to remember who Tukes is, he's the guy that made this work that kind of got around. And I'm not sure if we did Blue Chess, but these pixelated works have been making the rounds. So also experimenting with AI. 150 Tezos, 1 of 1. And we are cruising, folks, now. Sum has released a few more rooms, 3 more rooms in her AI series, so of couches. And I'm quite enjoying these. 1 is available for 5 Tezos, and the other 2 I don't think she has listed yet. So it's looking good with Sum, with Sum's work here, these nice blue couches, which seem to be the subject matter. And Javier Tomeo, Spring Thunderstorm, another head-turning work from Javier, who I always kind of like to keep track of, who's always developing. And there's just so much in here. I mean, incredible. I wonder, it's probably raw AI, like pretty impressive. And Venta with another work that is another head-turner here. Look at what looks like a burger. Eater of the Burger Pill. And this looks like a burger. And strange thing, like I didn't even include it, he put out a brilliant sneaker of looked like a Nike Air, and I think it was like a Nike Air 95, or what are they called? The shoes that Mick Jagger wears. He loves those. The Nike Air, they're the classic 90s ones. I can't remember the name of them. He made them like Lego. So go to Strange Thing. Maybe we can find it now. So anyways, nice work by Venta here. Let's see if we can find very quickly, because I'm actually going to try and keep these episodes shorter, guys, but today there's just a ton to go through. Let's see if we can find that work. Oh, wow. Look at this. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to point out. So, really nice combination of Lego. Air Max, that's what I was looking for. Lego Air Max 95s, not for mint. And Red Rum, experimenting with Pepe. Do you want to see Pepe inside the red rum? I think that looks like a business to me. It looks really cool too. So that is an original, I assume AI created. Another kind of non-traditional artist making art, and I say, why not? It turned my head, and it's like, look, I painted this exclusively for the cover of my next fiction NFT titled Purple. Now, I'm not sure if this is physical or not, but I'm just looking at the art here. So I think it's a beautiful work. Kind of looks like a physical piece, but maybe it was made in Procreate, because you can't tell half the time. Interesting little Toshiba remote control here. And that's controlling the heat. So anyways, there's a ton going on. Turned my head. And this is probably digital as well, but I kind of grouped it in with the final pieces here, which are kind of ambiguous. Just like it's getting ambiguous if AI is in a lot of artworks these days, right? Increasingly so. Remember we saw that work about a week ago, and I was like, it looks like it was an acrylic painting, and it looked like an AI work that was rendered physically. So all the taboos are being broken here. All the lines are being crossed. Turemza, the very first enjoyment before all packed in the finest on Tuesday. So I'm not sure if this is a later rendition, but I love this. And this is probably a digital painting, by the way. This Tezos hanging in front of the chalice. I couldn't tell if that's a later version of this. I guess we'll find out, because we follow Turemza's work here. And I think Turemza might have tweeted out a couple of these other kind of physical-looking works, and it's really hard to tell. Like if this was a physical work, it would be brilliant and beautiful. And I have a feeling it was made with Procreate, because it's actually pretty hard to do something like this. But in Procreate, you can do it because you can do undo, and you can experiment until you get the right thing. To do this physically would be very tricky, I would think. So anyway, that looks like it's by Bruda de la Creme. And another work, I think Turemza tweeted this out, but I'm not sure. Demon Ego. Very nice, right? Kind of reminds, I think this is the guy who I thought was like Zigmar Polka, who had kind of an echo of Zigmar Polka. I think it's that guy. And this is my friend Ben, who I told you guys about in a previous episode. Look at this brilliant painting he put out. Maybe he can put it out as a Sol NFT or a Polygon NFT sometime soon. This is on Instagram. That's why it's not the full page. And you can see some of his other work here. Check him out, 8enm.art. Let's see if we can bring up. He does a lot of memes. Yeah, like ethically sourced child spine. Or yeah, that is what that says. Here's Tracy Emin in the studio. Ego. So he plays a lot with memes. Yeah. Right? And so this is water-based oil paint. Water-based oil paint, which kind of goes with his whole thing, you know. Brilliant, brilliant painter, good friend of mine. I need to go for coffee with that guy. Ben Meyer. So anyways, finally, guys, that is your show. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.